Good evening. I am calling the Monday, April 10th Planning Commission meeting to order. It is 6:30 p.m. Tonight's Planning Commission meeting is being held in person and virtually by using Zoom. As chair, I will be leading the Planning Commission meeting, and the public is welcome to participate when invited throughout. Members of the public may attend the meeting in person or join via online Zoom. If attendees experience audio problems, we suggest you leave the meeting and then rejoin. This usually fixes the issues. Additional instructions on how to participate are posted online at www.burnsvillemn.gov in the public meeting calendar. As usual, tonight's meeting is available for viewing on BCTV and on the city's website. If you are unable to participate this evening and would like to submit public testimony, I encourage you to email your comments to city staff or mail your comments directly to City Hall. You may participate in the meeting tonight online by going to https://zoom.us/join and typing in meeting ID 833-4219-3184. Once you are logged into the meeting, please use the chat feature to tell the moderator which item you wish to speak to. You may also call into the meeting at 651-372-8299 with the same meeting ID, 833-4219-3184. For each public hearing, I will open up a time when callers may speak to that item and will give more instructions at that time. Your call will be muted until then. Please note there may be a slight delay due to the differences in technology. If speaking by phone, please mute your computer since there may be a delay. All right, now we will move on to the agenda. First item on the agenda tonight is adoption of the agenda. Planning commissioners, any changes to the agenda? Staff, any changes?
Yes. So following the publishing of the public hearing notice for item number 3 for the application for a new veterinary clinic, and after the agenda came out at the end of last week, the applicant let us know that they would like to be pulled from this evening's agenda due to some financial constraints. They're going to be making some changes to their building plans and the site plan, which does affect directly the deviations that they're requesting from city code. So because of that, we are asking that the Planning Commission adopt tonight's agenda with the exception of removing item number 3, which is the public hearing application for the Kruse BPAH, Burnsville Parkway Animal Hospital.
Very good. Thank you, Ms. Madden. So to adopt the agenda, if we could have a motion to adopt with the exclusion of item number 3, Mr. Anderson.
I'll make a motion to adopt the agenda minus item number 3.
Very good.
I'll second the motion.
Thank you. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the motion carries. All right, so the next item is approval of the meeting minutes from our last meeting, which was March 27th, 2023. Planning commissioners, any changes to the minutes? Staff, any changes to the minutes?
No changes from staff.
All right, so I would entertain a motion for approval of the minutes from the last meeting. And Ms. Braddock.
Motion to approve the minutes.
Thank you. Mr. Wallace.
I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And if you're opposed, say nay. The motion carries. All right, so we will move to what was item number 4, public hearing application of City of Burnsville for a zoning ordinance amendment to Title 10, zoning Chapter 8, environmental overlay districts to update to be consistent with municipal separate storm sewer system and Lower Minnesota River Watershed District requirements. That is a mouthful. Tonight we have Ms. Desrud presenting for us, so thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Good evening to the Planning Commission. So this is a public hearing tonight to make these official changes. At a previous meeting, I went through kind of the why we do this and the requirements that we're subject to. So I won't repeat that, but this is kind of leading up to why we're doing this tonight. I'll just go through each section that we made changes to. So in section 10-8-5, that's a wetland section. Mainly here, we just did some cleanup. There were some grammar edits. We took advantage of this opportunity to do these cleanups, even though this particular thing is not related to those watershed district requirements. We defined some acronyms, and then I think the previous responsibility was to a position that no longer exists with the city, and so we made it to the Public Works Director, which will probably be a position that always exists with the city, or their designee, which in this case, Daryl, who was here last time, is a Natural Resources Manager, and he does the wetland management. In 10-8-8, this is erosion control, we did a cleanup. We moved most of the requirements that were really thoroughly listed out in the section, and we referred them to the Water Resources Management Plan. So it's all in one place, and the code says you must follow the Water Resources Management Plan. If there are updates to the Water Resources Management Plan, we don't have to come back and do a code amendment, and that's kind of the reason why we did it that way. This is probably the most major change. The Lower Minnesota River Watershed District rules required us to change the threshold for requiring a grading permit. So previously, or currently, it's 90 cubic yards of disturbance. What we changed it to citywide, not just in the watershed district, just for consistency. We changed it to 50 cubic yards or 1 acre of disturbance citywide. But that 50 cubic yards or 5,000 square feet of disturbance is only for the high value resource areas. We felt that going citywide with the 5,000 square feet was a little too much scrutiny, and that'd be a lot of permits and a lot of projects. So 50 cubic yards is the threshold everywhere. And then in those high value resource areas, which are the ones that are sort of in an orangey color, and the steep slopes areas, which are sort of in a green color. I don't know if my kind of these along the edges here, those are all steep slopes. It's kind of a linear line along there. There's a little higher requirement for when you would need a permit from the city. And then in 10-8-11, that's the stormwater management section. Again, we did some grammar edits. And I think the big change here was that previously the code said that the city council was responsible for making sure that developers applied for or adhered to the rules, but not every project comes before the city council. So we thought it made sense to have that come through the city engineer as I'm reviewing every single plan and every single permit that needs a city engineer review. So that's the major change in that section. Not for you tonight, but just more to keep consistent with what we're doing as a whole. The code review task force, they looked at late last month, the title 6-9 on animals, and that part, when it's approved, that's per our MS4 requirements, that animal waste must be properly disposed of. So right now it's not a city code requirement. It seems like it's just common sense, but now we have to make it, per our permit, we have to make it a legal requirement that people pick up after their animals. And then a future review by the code task force is de-icer, so that's salt application and storage. So right now we don't have any requirements or regulations about keeping like road salt or de-icer in a container that's covered, or spill requirements for cleanup. And so now we have made that a requirement that'll be seen before the code review task force at one of their future meetings, and then eventually to the city council. So at this time, staff recommends to the Planning Commission, recommend to the City Council approval of those proposed Title 10 ordinance amendments as drafted. And then we have a later date of May 2nd. It's not going on their next agenda because we're packaging some other updates that are going to the PNRC next week. So all of it will go to them at one time. And I stand for questions.
Well, thank you, Ms. Desrud. Commissioners, any questions? Well, before the meeting, I prepped about 20 or 30 for you just to make sure we had something to talk about. No, I'm kidding, of course.
I'm ready.
I'm sure you are. You know, really straightforward. I looked through the changes earlier today, and it seems pretty logical. I did have one question, though, and this is more for the entire code review process. You talked about one responsibility shifting from the city council to you as the city engineer. And that got me thinking, you know, to what level of legal review do we do to make sure that that is, you know, not like a state law requirement, that that's the city council? And I was thinking there's probably other changes that we probably need to make sure that we're careful on there.
Yeah, the city attorney reviews all of these before they are adopted to make sure that we're not going astray from our legal requirements. The city council is not obligated to make sure that they through this code amendment, they're giving me that authority to make sure that it's done properly. And as you review all your developments, you see the engineering considerations section, and we have comments, and we make sure that they're meeting our requirements. So it's kind of a through the council to me
Yep.
sort of authorization.
Okay, yeah, makes more sense than having like Vince go out there and take a look at it, so, right?
Right. No offense to Vince, I'm sure he would do a great job.
I bet he'd love to do it too. All right, so I've picked on Vince once this year. I think that's good. It's the only reason I wanted a chair tonight. All right, so this is a public hearing, and at 6:40, I will open the public hearing to see if anybody has comments. And I do not see any, and I don't know if I would get a text if anybody's online, but if anybody is online, let me know. Okay, we're gonna close the public hearing. We're gonna slow play this and round it up to 6:41 PM on the dot. So, I guess if there's any discussion, we can take discussion. Otherwise, I would entertain a motion and we can have a very short meeting tonight.
It seems pretty straightforward. I'd be happy to make the motion. So I move that we recommend to the city council approval of the proposed ordinance amendment as drafted. Thank you for a great presentation, by the way.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Commissioner Wadd. Commissioner Anderson?
I would like to second that.
And Mr. Anderson seconds it. So all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. And the motion carries. All right, so being that this is probably going to be a record meeting in time, I thought, it only appropriate to have one little jab at City Council Member Workman, because he's gonna call me tonight and say, what are you doing that for? But we had time, so why not? Any updates? We're gonna move to item which was number 5 for any updates, planning commissioners. And staff.
Yes, just a couple. So at our last planning commission meeting, you reviewed 2 applications, one of which was for MWF Properties for a preliminary and final plat of what will be their kind of 3rd phase of developments over off of Pleasant and Gateway and heart of the city. So that application was approved on consent at the city council meeting last week. From there, I know I mentioned in my staff report during the last meeting that they have a requirement to go through an environmental assessment worksheet. So that is an application that they are beginning to prepare for the city. And just so that you know, because it's been a while since we've done an environmental assessment worksheet, it is not an application that comes to the planning commission. But if you want to stay informed on when that is received, there will be a page on the city's website, and then it will also be shared in the state environmental quality board monitor list as well. As an FYI, the other application that was viewed at the last planning commission meeting for the Auntie Anne's Pretzel and Jamba Juice was also approved by the city council at last week's meeting, so that will move forward through to the permitting stage. Other than that, that is all the updates that I have. Thank you.
Great, thank you. A lot of excitement for Jamba Juice and Auntie Annie's. I couldn't believe how much I've heard about that since our last meeting, so. All right, so that brings us to adjournment. So, Commissioner Wallace.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
All right, Commissioner Wallace makes the motion. Commissioner Braddock?
Second.
And seconded by Commissioner Braddock. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. And the motion carries. We are adjourned. Thank you.